All right. Good evening, everyone. Getting like a weird glare over here somewhere. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Anyway, we'll ignore it. Hope everyone is doing great this evening. Welcome to Magickal Coffee Hour. Sorry we didn't do the members only live stream on Friday with Veterans Day. The wife had off work and everything. We wanted to spend some time and do some family things, those kinds of goodies. I do appreciate everyone understanding that. Let's see, Violet Star, good to see you. Immortal, good to see you. Is it Grave? Good to see you. So, some good news is for those who haven't seen it in the locals community, I did make the announcement there. It looks like I'm going to be doing some of the final, and I do mean final touches, like the spit and polish, making sure the videos where I want them, thumbnails are up and everything for the evocation course. This, I always leave a caveat at the end of this, but every time I get to this stage, I'm usually good to go. That means that the channel supporters over at the locals community and tier 2 here on YouTube are going to be getting the early access to that course very, very, very likely toward the end of this month, around maybe Thanksgiving-ish, America-wise. So look toward the end of November. Whereas it will be going public to everyone a week or two thereafter that. So thank you for your patience. This course has been a hard one on me. I have learned so much about my teaching methods and filming and other things that this course has challenged me on as a teacher and a creator. So I've gotten a lot out of doing this project, and I hope you all get as much, if not more, out of the course once it's released. Let's see. Radani, good to see you. Vicky, good to see you. Chad, welcome back. Grease, sorry, autocorrect. I had a question written down to ask you because I always trust your knowledge. Well, thank you much. I'll do the best I can. Also, I do want to remind everyone, if you do want to support the channel, great way to do it outside watching all our videos, hitting that like button, which helps us a lot. Make sure you are smashing that thumbs up. And subscribing to the channel is to jump over to workingdragonmystic.com, where you can find the online school and you will find the Working Dragon Mystic Layer community. That's where I put public announcements, and that is also where the supporter-only content is being published. We have got a lot of stuff from bloopers to just home remedy and plenty of supporter-only videos over there, as well as supporter-only live streams. We're getting ready to do, if I remember right, is it the wards? It's either the wards or the runes workshop. I think we're getting ready to do possibly this Friday. I want to say it's a wards workshop this Friday for supporters only. So a lot of great things over there already, and we plan to do more as the community grows. Great place to support us. I believe the supporters, we don't have tiers. It's just one thing, and it's $10. But for that $10, you get all the things, which is kind of nice. Early access to courses, all those goodies. So, and we are trying to get the, what would the proper, I don't know the proper YouTube term. We are trying to get the fan viewer-based support to the point where we can just like not have to worry about monetization and all the extra ads and stuff like that pop up. I know so many of you are annoyed by them right now. They're unnecessary, so we do what we do the best we can do. But once the evocation course is done, I'm going to take a month or two break. I'm just going to be focusing on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some of my own private ritual work, getting caught up on that, catching a breather, relaxing before I jump into recording the next course. So, yeah, I could use that breather. All right, let's see. Where were we? And don't worry about autocorrect. Autocorrect like despises me. The stuff it puts into autocorrect sometimes is just bad. Bad. I can't even like say some of the stuff it autocorrects for me on here. That's how bad it is. Creator, good to see you. Karma, welcome. What is your best advice for avoiding imposters and parasites? I've begun working with an entity. I've got wards against uninvited spirits, but I still worry when I call one, it could show up. Okay, this imposter parasite paranoia that you see in a lot more of the modern books, it's not as big a problem as most people would think. But if you're worried about an imposter or a parasite, and I do mean any basic magic circle or cleansing will clear it. So, like in ceremonial magic, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, it's not necessarily a cleansing ritual for your home or anything. It's more, a lot of magicians say it's only on the astral. So it would literally clear out any of those parasites the moment you do it. A basic cleansing with smudging with whether it be incense or sage or even a banishing cleansing spray or even just a squirt gun filled with holy water, again, would cleanse the area out. As to an imposter, here's the kicker. When you're calling to an entity and you're creating that connection with an entity and you've done your research on the entity and you're focused on that entity, you're not going to get a imposter stepping in, primarily because that imposter would actually have to deal with the wrath or rage of that. And any entity worth its salt isn't going to allow an imposter. They just don't do it. Now, have there been cases of imposters? Absolutely. I've seen a time or two. One of them was when I was working with Odin, and it was a human spirit that stepped in. That human spirit sorely regretted it. Sorely regretted it. However, most of the time, an imposter is actually more often a thought form, which again is not going to be an issue if you're doing your cleansings or your preparatory work. And when you do make the connection is going to rip apart any servitors too. So if there's a servitor or a thought form that you even create accidentally during other evocation work or meditation work, once you get that real connection, Odin or any entity for that matter is just going to nuke it. It won't exist. You'll be dealing with the real one. So the best thing you can honestly do is just have a ritual setup. The Dragon's Flame ritual is a great example of this. That ritual is one that it cleanses the area, it protects the area, it empowers the area. And the entire time you're setting this up, it also is setting it up for your work. So if you're reaching out and connecting with an entity, that's the only entities that's going to show up. If you're a Norse practitioner, not the Hailing Rite, the Hammer Rite. A lot of people don't like this rite because they're like, it's not traditional. This is a modern thing. It is a modern thing. Not gonna lie, it's modern. But does it work? Yup, it still works. It sets up protections and boundaries specifically within that Norse current of energy so that it defines and sets aside that space. Only that which you invite can enter in. And that's the kicker, that which you invite. An imposter isn't what you invite. Like if I send my buddy Nitro an invitation, I know Nitro. I know who he really is. He's the only one. If someone shows up claiming to be him, they're not getting in. And I know that it's like, well, what if they, sneak in with the invitation? But as long as you have that initial setup, you are good to go. Then it comes more about your own personal doubt. Doubt is your biggest enemy here, hands down. And that's where I say keep a journal, record everything. I don't care how minuscule it might be, how small the working was, how small the meditation was. Record it, write it down, write your feelings, write your experiences, even if it's only 2 or 3 sentences, because that will give you a written record that you can look back to and show your progress and your successes, maybe your failures, maybe your trip and falls. But by seeing that progress is going to help you overcome doubt. That's honestly the best way, because I know there's some people who's just like, take your doubt, throw it aside, and just go. That's really hard. I mean, let's be honest. I got into magic to prove it didn't work because of doubt. But I was able to set my doubt aside. I couldn't get rid of it. Because if I'd done that same path working for that full year, my doubt wouldn't have gone nowhere if I didn't have that record. I had to have something to look at to actually say, aha, there is something here that's outside of me that I can track. Hope that answers the question somewhat. Um, Brennan, what does it mean when you move backwards in meditation? Depends on the meditation, the style, and the purpose. Because most traditional meditations, I don't know where that would apply. I know sometimes, like in Tree of Life or World Tree or Underworld meditations, where you either descend into the World Tree or ascend up into it to different levels of the World Tree, or even different levels of the self. They also tell you to retract, come back the same way you went into the meditation, and that is sometimes referred to as move backwards, as because you're moving back along the same path you took in. Um, there is, in the case of movement meditation, it's not often used, but there are people who will talk about moving backwards and moving meditation, where you're literally doing an activity backwards, walking backwards in a circle, whatever. And I've heard a bunch of different concepts as to why someone would do this. It helps break the monotony, help pull you out of the mundane, helps put your mind into a differential. I personally have never actually found a good use for it. It's distracting. It disallows meditation for most people, I've found, because they're putting too much focus on not falling on their ass. Um, but so it would depend on that. It's not just a single term means this for meditation, unfortunately. Gray, is the Working Dragon Mystic Discord up? And if so, could you put the link? The Discord, actually, Discord deleted us. They never gave us a reason. We have sent them over 100 emails asking why. They deleted us. So we have had to move over to Gilded. Gilded, we're still there. I believe there's even a link to it at workingdragonmystic.com. There should be, like, on, I want to say it's the far right. You should see Gilded Community. So that's there. A lot of people do enjoy it because it does have that kind of flowing chat room style. I agree. I spend time there myself quite often. And then we have the Working Dragon Mystic Layer Community, where it's more like news feed, post, videos, and stuff like that. That's also where the supporter content is and stuff. But yeah, we don't have a Discord. It's only the Gilded Community, which is there. So I'm sorry about that. And we jumped. Hey, Jay, glad you can make it. And she dropped a Gilded, or not, yeah, a Gilded link. A Gilded link. Appreciate that, Jade. Let's see. See, Immortal, I do the Dragon's Flame ritual before all my spell workings. In all honesty, Immortal, it is my go-to ritual. It really is. I had practically all paths. Like if I'm working with Norse, if I'm working with the Cliff Off, the Tree of Life, I tend to gravitate toward that one. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I will do for some of my Norse path working, I'll leave it out and focus strictly on Norse workings. Which you're going to see, like when I do the Norse course, we won't be using the Dragon's Flame ritual. It's not even going to be referenced because we're going to be focusing on specific Nordic theme rituals and energy unique to Norse. But unless I'm just going for that full Norse unique feeling, I use the Dragon's Flame ritual in all honesty. And I think, I don't want to say for sure, but I think that's the only time I don't use it. I think. Let's see. Creator, I've been thinking of calling on Poseidon, seahorses, and ocean dreams with him appearing. Have you worked with Poseidon before? Any insight on why he's contacting me? Well, first off, be careful because dreams are tricky. Anytime something shows up in a dream, could they be contacting you? Possibly. But it's more of a 10% chance that they are. Weirdly, dreams have a way of being interpreted meanings inside what we're processing. The problem is a lot of mythology and symbolism around mythology was written around the same way. So I never say a dream's a good conductor of whether or not they're contacting you. The best way to find out is to reach out to them. As to have I worked with him, I've worked with him time or two over the years, off and on. Never a dedicated working. Um, by and large, I'll say when I've worked with him, him and we've gotten along well. I found him a reasonable guy, but like he's also not any like. Have you ever met that person that you get along with them, but like if either of you don't have a reason to talk, you're never going to talk outside whatever it is that reason that brings you together being. That's kind of where he and I are. Um, Whereas other entities, like they're just people I can genuinely hang out with. I can talk to, I just connect with them somehow. Poseidon was never that with me, which is odd because I love the freaking ocean. I absolutely do. The ocean's one of the big things one of the big two that actually got me into science because I loved marine biology, sharks, and all those fish and dolphins and things in the seas. In fact, some of my the hardest words I learned to pronounce when I was really, really young was scientific names of sharks. My mom was like, "You can say that," but so, yeah. So my best advice would be to reach out and talk to him and be respectful about it. See what's going on there, if anything. Even if he's not reaching out to you, you can reach out to him. This idea that you have to wait for an entity to reach out to you, that's horse shit. If you want to reach out to him, reach out to him. Let's see. Okay. Whoa. Okay, get back there. Okay. We jumped a little. Also, do remember if you have a question and I'm missing it due to this chat room jumping around and everything on me on my screen, or I'm freaking blind and can't read small text. I'm just getting there, people. Do a super chat. It'll flash up really big on the screen. Does a little flashy light show on my screen for me to draw my attention. And luckily, I have attention deficit shiny disorder, so it will get my attention. And then I'll make sure to answer it. And any super chats of $5 or more, whether it has a question or not, will get you entered into a weekly spell working for health, prosperity, and well-being. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Apparently, I've forgotten a time or two to tell y'all that. But there we go. Let's see. Karma, Drake, I took a lot of time off from Magic, 2 months or so, and I want to get back in the saddle. Any tips? Karma, I'll be honest with you, mate. Full on like getting in the pool in summer. Don't stick your toe in. Don't stick your hand in. Don't dilly-dally around the edge trying to figure out if the water's right. Don't go over to the stairs and you all know what I'm talking about. And guys, you know what I'm talking about too, because once it gets past the trunks, boys, there's a whole new brand of cold. But just jump in. Seriously. Easiest way to get in the pool, start having fun, get your groove on in the summer when you want to go to the pool. Just jump in. Whether you cannonball off the side or cannonball off the diving board, just jump in. Because you're going to have like 5 to 10 seconds maybe of, oh, dear God, it's cold. And then the rest of the day is just a blast. Hands down, the best way to do it. There are times in the past before working Dragon Mystic where I would take time off. Working Dragon Mystic really does not allow me to take time off from Magic anymore, which not a bad thing. But in those times when I did, and those times when magicians I know who they just take time off. Hands down, every one of us agrees the easiest way is just dive right in. So, like for me, if I was for Dragon Magic, if I took time off, I would jump right in with the ritual where I was. So you're doing Dragon Magic 101. Start doing the Dragon's Flame ritual in the method that you were last doing it. If you think your visualization's a little rusty, start with the starter one. Work your way up over the next 2 or 3 days, but just jump right back in. That is hands down my advice. Let's see what we got here. Voices. There were actually instances where I heard a voice of my co-mag, literally physically, and got really scared. I thought I was developing schizophrenia. At first, it was my name, a few words weird. Any thoughts? What has it happened to you? It has happened. Interestingly enough, it has. There is some debate amongst magicians whether it's literally physical or not. And this is kind of the same thing like with, what would you call it? Electronic voice EVPs. It's kind of the same thing because it is possible for these entities to make a sound so real that your brain can't tell the difference of your arcane hearing picking it up and your actual ear. That does happen, and that happens to me a lot. There is also the case where you can pick it up on a recorder or someone else hears it. And, mages will slice it different ways and argue and debate it. Fine. But yes, it has happened. They're actually quite well known to get my attention that way. I don't know if y'all know this. I can be somewhat hard headed. Sometimes they will try subtly to get my attention. They're trying to get me to pay attention to something. It won't work. And eventually they do have to result to more extreme things, up to and including yelling very loudly in my ear, which is a little rude. They could probably, try something a little less extreme, but they tend to go from one extreme to the other with me. Not saying I don't deserve it, but so it has happened. You just kind of got to write it down, record it, see what's going on, see if it makes sense. That is kind of one of those things. And the feeling of you may having schizophrenia, I've been there too. So, I mean, I've actually been there to the point where I went and talked to somebody to make sure I wasn't crazy. So I've been there. Hey, Dragon of the West. Great. Let's see, Rendini. Does cleansing before you go to bed avoid that spirits that don't have your best in mind enter your dreams? Because something like that happened to me yesterday. Because I was too tired to do the dragon ritual. It can help. The problem is, though, it's 90% of the time, it's not a spirit entering your dream. The dream realm is actually very difficult to get into. Most spirits actually can't get into it. And most of the time, it's more often you processing something else. And if you're used to going to bed with the Dragon's Flame ritual and a very balanced out energy, like I do recommend it when you start your day and at the end of the day for that reason. That disruption in your energy can actually trigger nightmares and things like that. So it could be either one, but it does help. But at the same time, it's not a foolproof plan because it's still the person, the magician. You got to handle that. And we got a super chat down here. AM $5. Thank you very much. Mugs up to you. Any tips for getting to a communication standpoint with Claire's senses? I'm at a plateau and I'm not getting more than a word or two per session. That is a tricky one. That is a good question. I don't know specifically what your practice is, but with my students, I do encourage them to take the time to communicate with an entity that they know and work with regularly and constantly work on longer form communications. And if you only get one word, ask for them to state it in a sentence. Ask for them to, and try to pick it up, because even if they say it in a sentence, you're right, it's going to be partially on your side. And once you have it open, you can either work with entities that are going to help you to grow it, which we do in Dragon Magic 101. Those are some of the functions that we actually do early on in that course. There are also other entities that can help you. Or you have to just continually push and flex that muscle, which can get irritating and annoying. But those are usually your best options, if not your really only options. But I do run them through a lot of different things and exercises like that and have them doing it daily. And once you're trying to process past that basic, it's don't take a single word. Make yourself listen for more, if that makes sense. Because you do get into this habit where you're used to a single word that's like, okay, I hear that single word. Once you're there and you think you've hit that plateau, that's because you're not forcing yourself to push past that. And I know that's a weird thing to say because you feel like you're training it, you feel like you're trying it. But if you literally refuse to take a single word as the answer and you continue to listen, it's going to build. it's like pushing past what your current max is. And that is one of the better ways to do it. And we got another, what is this? Immortal, 16 months support. Wow, thank you, mate. Let's see. Had a great question about why DJ Conway has different names for the rulers than you do. Okay, so that is actually an interesting question. So, I'm trying to figure out how to respectfully put this. So, Conway actually, when I was sharing the names that I had for them, she knew them. Like, I started to list 2 of them out, and she completed the list before I was able to. So that was a little interesting. However, something about these names weren't, like, the publisher didn't like the way they flowed. They were hard to say. They didn't quite fit. Those kinds of things. So she did end up using different names, and she pulled from a lot of mythology and stuff. Now, the way she was telling it, I couldn't tell if she changed it or the publisher changed it after. I'm not going to say one way or the other. It could have been a business decision on her side of the fence because I didn't really poke and prod too much because, you know, but that is kind of what she was telling me. And it's also one of those things where I remember early on, like Ingus Salor absolutely despised the name he got shouldered with because, first off, if you actually look into the Edis, Fafnir is not a dragon. Fafnir was a dwarf who shape changed into a dragon because of his greed. And he was a very greedy, selfish, basically goes against everything dragons stand for. So he wasn't too happy with that. So she did pull from different names from different cultures that she had found. That's the overarching definitive point blank. This is why they made the decision to make that decision. That I can't really say. I didn't dive deep enough into it. But that's the general of it. Because weirdly, she did know those names, which really kind of freaked me out. I will admit our spelling of them were a little different. Her spelling was closer to what I would initially write down, what I thought I was hearing, and the dragons would get bitchy with me and correct me. And because if you look at a lot of these dragon names, people, I mean, I'm looking at it, it's like, the way you're telling me to pronounce this don't look right. And they didn't care. So, you know, then again, it could just be my southern twang and I'm hearing it and not spelling it right because, so could be that too. Good question, though. Good question. I am. Thank you very much. I'll give this a shot. No problem. No problem. It can be a tricky one. It really can. Like mine really improved because I started doing things daily, multiple times a day, and I really would push forward. And it was a grind. There was no doubt. I won't say it came easy. It was a grind, but and even today, like I'm still developing. It's not like, hearing them is just always as perfectly clear as hearing my wife when I'm paying attention to her. I have to put that caveat in there because there's been plenty of times where I didn't hear what she said because I wasn't paying attention. But I'm still developing, but I am at a point now with focus and everything. I'd say 80-90% of the time, I hear most of what they say, but I still do ask for them to repeat things, especially when I'm writing, because I'm one of those people that when I'm writing, like I will be literally writing what you say, but I write so slow that I miss the second half because I'm focused on not screwing up what I'm writing. And they have to repeat because of that. So, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get out of those comfy spots. It really is. I know exactly how that is. But it's also like when we want to grow, we have to yank ourselves off that comfy spot. It's kind of like why people's like, Drake, you're working on getting in shape and everything. Why don't you go to the gym? Why don't you lift? Why don't you do the guys? I'll be honest, I like working out to an extent, but like I'm never going to be one of these gym guys. And I'm not making fun of them. I'm making fun of them. But because there's a point of working out for health, well-being, flexibility, these kinds of things, mechanical muscle, I get. But like just to go to the gym to bulk, that's not me. I don't want to. It's like, give me that one more, give me that one. I don't like the feeling of hurting. Uh, Actually, technically speaking, that's one of the reasons I'm working on getting back in shape, because I don't like hurting. But I just don't have that motivation. So that's why I'll never be one of those guys. For those of you who have that determination, that focus, and you enjoy it, mugs up to you. That's amazing. But then again, those guys don't have some of the motivations and drive that I have in other areas. We're different folks. But when you find those comfy zones that you want to work on, even when it's something you want to work on, it can be hard to get out of them. It really can. Da, 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 da. Agree. Oh, so they're kind of a dumbed down version, so I should use the ones you use. I'm not going to tell you which ones to use. I know some people who do still use Conways. It's what they're used to. Um, the dragons themselves don't particularly take any offense to it. Ingus, I know occasionally it like grinds his gears, to use a phrase. But he also understands that you're not meaning it, like you're not calling him a selfish moron or anything like that. Um, but I mean, you're welcome to ask them directly if they have a preference. But by all means, feel free to use the ones we got here. Um, I think, technically speaking, the rulers kind of want me to say use the ones they gave me because I did publish them, and that's the ones that they gave me to tell you all. So there would kind of be that, maybe, technically speaking. So from their perspective, I'm going to put it that way. From my personal perspective, use the ones you like. I'm going to get a lecture later. I can feel it. Let's see. Let's see. What's your favorite form of divinations and why? Um, that's an amazing one. My favorite form of divinations, and people who's followed this channel and taken a few of the courses will probably be able to guess this. My favorite form of divinations is scrying. And I do have several reasons, actually. First off, I hate any divination that uses idiomotor response, or idiomotor response can interfere with its accuracy. It drives me batty. My scientific, detailed data collecting brain just will not do it. It just irks me in every way. And this gets me in trouble with a lot of people because I've debunked Ouija boards. I'm not a fan of pendulums, any of the list where the idiomotor response comes up. But with scrying, there is like you can do so much with it in such a versatile way. First off, you can use it for um, astral evocation, in which you actually reach out to an entity to have that real-time conversation, which can help you develop your arcane senses while you're doing it. You can use it to view different locations, people, loved ones. You can even use it to view, not predict the future, people. Let me be clear. Divinations don't predict the future or tell you the future. What divinations does is it shows you possible routes that you can take based on right now, right this moment, what you're at. With scrying, the cool thing is it spreads out like this strand from you, and then there's a web, just doosh, and every web deviates from a choice or an event. And scrying will, when you get good enough, allow you to navigate the different pathways to see, which directions you may want to choose or where you may want to utilize your magic to hopefully steer your ship in the direction to the results you want. That's amazing. And you're like, okay, Drake, but you just said provable data. You are correct. I did. And one of the reasons I love scrying is, and this is what I do with my students. Like if you take a scrying class with me, you can expect real world applications. So I will actually have you scry an area and go view the area and actually write down how accurate you were. I believe we cover this because we do talk about scrying in the evocation course. And I know we talk about it in Dragon Magic 102 also, but I will literally have you like scry an area where you can't see it, you've not been there, but someplace you can get to within 5 to 10 minutes so that you can go out there and check it. One of the videos that I did for the evocation course is this exact exercise. I actually scried an area that I knew and I visited, but I hadn't been there in a while. And I was looking for things that were out of place, specifically things that were out of place. Very key details that were out of place that after recording the initial scrying session and making those notes, I was able to jump in the car, drive down to this location, and look for these details, look for these things. It's been a while. I know some of the things that we scribed were there, some were missing, but I wasn't sure if they were there or not, or somebody had picked them up because it was kind of like it's some kind of trash. It's been a while. It's some kind of trash. I want to say it was a styrofoam cooler, but it wasn't there. The other object was, but did somebody pick it up between the time I scried it or not? Could have, but I marked it down as not there because if it wasn't there, it wasn't there. I don't give myself the excuse that someone picked it up. The other items were there. And this is an exercise I still do to this day to constantly improve my scrying. But because of its versatility and the fact that if you really, really push yourself, you can gather conformational data that you can then apply that conformational data to the other exercises in your scrying. It's become so versatile. And it's also easy to do anywhere. I don't need a tabletop. I don't need to worry about, are my runes going to fall on the floor? Do I have room to do a full cast? And I don't have to have room to lay out tarot cards. If I need to, I can scry in my watch. You see that shiny black little digital watch thing? I can scry in that. I can scry on a cup of coffee looking down in there. I can scry in there. I can scry on my phone screen. See, that's basically a black mirror there. So finding a surface to scry in is so freaking easy. It don't even have to be black. You could scry into a glass of water if you wanted to. I know people who scry in rings. So that's why it's extremely versatile, and it allows me to collect a great amount of data. Now, behind scrying is definitely the runes. I love the runes. I've gotten great results with them. 24 runes, the way the meditation, the way they're used for magic, I just fell in love with the runes as a whole. But I tend to use them more for magic as opposed to divinations, even though I get amazing results from divinations. Behind the runes, and probably the last place in divinations where I spend much time, would be tarot. I don't know what it is. There's something about tarot, the cards. If you do it right, it can be an amazing system. What I don't like is it's really hard to learn all the cards for a lot of people. Then there's do you find a deck you can connect with without buying 50 decks of cards? Because I think I have only 2 decks I ever actually use. But I do teach tarot. I love tarot. And you all have been over to school. You can see I have a tarot class that I have found a method to teach tarot that breaks it up, makes it far easier to absorb. Those would be my 3. Hope that answers your question, son. And if I didn't pick your favorite one, I'm sorry. I'm just answering the question honestly. Let's see. Where was it? All right, we'll give up where I was. What's everyone's choice of coffee tonight? Tonight, I am drinking Fear No Evil by Iron Bean Coffee Company. And no, they ain't paying me to say that. Although, Iron Bean, if you're watching, unlikely, but if you're watching, give me a contact. We might be able to make a deal. Should you clean your space? It depends on how skilled you are at the particular divination you're doing, because outside energies and the emotional and energetic state of yourself can affect the divinations. Like the biggest fault in scrying is false hope. Your desires, your hope, if you can't pull those to the side, the scrying is going to show you the pathway that leads to what you're hoping for, but it won't give you a good image of how to get there because you're skipping over all the good, the bad, the possible, that's not good. That's going to get you there. So yeah, it does help quite a bit if you do a nice ritual like that in order to clear the area, especially when you're practicing or you're outside your normal comfort zones. So, like if I'm doing a large scry, even to this day, like I've been scrying for years, like when I'm looking forward, I generally do several different forward scrying sessions a year, and I put a lot into them. And I look usually a month, 3 months, 6 months, you know, leapfrog that way. Um, but I always make sure to do a ritual like the Dragon's Flame ritual because I want to make sure not only my area, but me is mentally, emotionally balanced without false hope or biased or these things so that I can get the clearest possible one. Now, even there, when I'm looking at all these probable pathways, there's not just my choices, there's the choices of the world that's constantly coming in and affecting it. So there's a lot of calculations that goes into this. But um, being able to at least set that general starting energy at a balanced state, big help, huge help. Oh, see, and well, I get back. All right, well, all right, we're going to try here. I divine daily with my co-match, so I feel like it might become tedious to do the Dragon's Flame ritual every time. So could I just smoke cleanse and be okay? I mean, you could try it. There's nothing wrong. I mean, you can light incense to cleanse the room. Honestly and truly, the Dragon's Flame ritual takes less time for me than it would to cleanse the house with, to smoke cleanse my office or ritual space. So you could do it, but the Dragon's Flame ritual for me at this point in my practice takes me 5 minutes or less at this point. Um, but you could definitely give it a shot. And different forms of cleanse energy slightly different, and those differentials can affect different magicians in different ways. So if it's a method that you find working and doesn't affect your scrying, I say go for it. Because for short term, like daily scries, like if I'm just doing short looks forward daily, I won't do a ritual because there's not enough information and gap there at this point in my practice that I'm worried about my bias. So yeah, I even like a week ahead, I won't do a ritual. Unless there's a month to 2 months, I don't bother with a ritual at this point. But starting out, I did it every freaking time. Um, let's see. Kid. Well, we jumped. Got it. Stop jumping. Um, Also, what about scrying in a candle flame? Is that fire scrying is totally a thing. Actually, one of the evocations we did for the evocation course was actually a lot of fun. My wife was laughing at me. We did a fire contact evocation and using fire as our scrying medium for that evocation. And when we did, like I'm sitting close enough so that we can get me the fire in frame. It's kind of dark. Well, it is dark. Um, and my wife was so happy to help run the camera for me. Well, I should say she was so sweet to do so. But when Odin dropped in, the fire went, and like I was sitting where it was comfortable, but when Odin dropped in and went, the heat went. Um, my goatee and eyebrows got a little singed from that one because I had to stay in frame, and like you can watch if you like I'm suddenly pulling back like, oh, that's a lot hotter. But it was a lot of fun to do it. It was a really great shot actually. But yeah, I love fire scrying, even in a like that was a fire pit, true. But I do fire scrying for candles. In fact, if you look at the long-term prosperity candle magic spell, though we don't necessarily call it that, when we're gazing into that candle, we're focusing on the outcome we want. Well, you are actually gazing in and scrying into that outcome and you're taking that energy along that pathway that is best going to get you to that outcome. So that is even a form of using scrying in just magical manifestations, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I use fire scrying too. The reason I don't like when I sit here and list off all the ways you can, like I travel, I have a lot of students that are military. I have a lot of students that are in dorms. Can't have open flames. It's one of those things. So fire just kind of gets kicked to the wayside. So it's a fun one. It can be a problematic one, but it is a doable one. The scrying with the candle wax and water one, that's always been a weird one for me, Vitki. I'll be honest, because it's less of a scrying and more of a looking for a pattern in a wax. And like you're just there's magicians who split hairs on this one, I will admit, and this is one that just bugs me. Because melting a candle so that it solidifies in water in order to create a shape, that just from a scrying standpoint, it felt pointless to me. And it's more like tea leaf reading than anything. So it's more of a, yeah, it's more like cartomancy, tea leaf reading, those kinds of things where you're looking for specific patterns to stand out and jump out as opposed to scrying. So, like for me, my brain's never been able to put it in the scrying box because it functions more like tea leaf reading. Like it functions, it does function, just like tea leaf reading can function. But you're more reading signs and intuition and stuff like that. Not to say it can't work, it does work. In fact, I enjoy reading tea leaves and coffee grounds from time to time, but they're definitely not even in my top 10. For me, they're more of a fun side activity or a fun little workshop or class to teach when people ask me to. But like for my personal practice, I rarely reach for them. So yeah, some people call it scrying, and I'm not to say which way is right or wrong on that particular definition. But for me, it's just never really stuck in my brain as scrying, if that makes some weird sense. I could be the one broken on that one. We all know I'm crazy. Jason, I can actually understand your reasoning behind oracles because there is a method of reading tarot that I was taught that is more oracle related than tarot related. And honestly, if I reach for a tarot deck these days, that's kind of what I do. And I think I talked about it in my course because there's the learning the base meaning and then there's learning to listen to the card. And that's the reason I really don't talk about oracle that much because oracles they do have that like smaller deck which a lot of people like, which is very handy honestly. But like if you're genuinely wanting to learn tarot and you're wanting to truly understand tarot as a divination, the layouts, the specific meanings and definitions in the books matter less than anything. One of the first things I tell them to do in the tarot class I teach is put the book away. You're not going to need it. Don't look at the book. Trying to read the book and memorize the book is going to stop you from learning tarot. And so I do tap into that same concept with the tarot. And the reason I lean toward tarot over oracle, usually speaking, is because once you find that deck, that tarot deck, much like an oracle deck, that you connect with and you read it that way, the combinations create a larger picture, and that larger picture can give details that a smaller deck wouldn't give. But then again, that larger deck ain't going to help if you don't lay out larger cards either. So there's something to be said. There's a pro and con on both sides of these. And honestly, for most people, I think oracle cards are a hell of a lot easier, a hell of a lot more approachable. And honestly, they're getting to be easier to find. And you're finding a lot more really cool oracle decks. The problem I had with oracle is it's been a while since I've looked, to be honest with you, but they were so light, fluffy, bullshit, frou-frou sunshine up your butt cards that I just could not. It's like, nope, can't do it. Now, a friend of mine did recently show me a Oracle deck he found. Problem being, it was like 80 freaking dollars. I ain't paying $80 for a deck of cards. But the artwork on it was something that I thought was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I loved it. So that deck gave me hope that we're starting to see more of these cards that are going to reach to more people, because that aesthetic, that ability to connect with those cards is so very important. It has a lot more importance than people give it credit for. And that's kind of a cool thing. So I've kind of been, I won't say I've been looking for them, but anytime I'm out and about where they might be, I've been poking my head in to see if there's an art style I want to check out. We'll see. Let's see. Angela, glad you can make it. And yes, we got delicious coffee right here. Drake, I have a question. What is the most heartwarming thing an entity has ever said to you? Oh, that's a tricky one, Angela. I'm not an emotional dude. And I don't mean I'm cold-hearted or anything. It's like I really just don't think of my emotions a lot. Let me think here. What was the most heartwarming? Crap, Angela, that's a stumper. That really is. You know what? Off the top of my head, the one that's coming to mind right now to me, would have been coming from hell. Her and I was talking, and she was actually talking to me about a lot of things that's happened in my life, people I've lost, people I love, the fact that those that I would call family are less blood and more people who I've met. They've earned my trust. They've earned my love. They've got my back no matter what. They know the good, the bad, the ugly of Drake Valentine, and they would still call me brother no matter what. They, through thick and thin. And I've lost a lot of those people. Time marches on, and it was one of those things where I have to genuinely say I almost, if not literally, felt like I had no place in the world. Okay? None. Like no identity, no place. It's just floundering in an endless ocean of nothing. And she's one of the ones who pointed out to me, first off, as a magician, they're never lost to me, that I can speak to them anytime I want. And two, I do have a place in the world. She's one of the first ones that pointed out all the things that I do, the little things for other people that have such a large impact on those people. And that though the way I affect the world had changed, that my place in it had only grown and expanded and evolved. It hadn't ended. And she discussed with me how the world will continue to change, and it will continue to change around me. And it will feel like the world itself isn't the world I know. But at any given day or point, your place in the world is determined by who you are and what you choose to do and how you choose to live in that world. And that choice is what helps to make that place. And she pointed out, I've always chosen to do everything I can for others to make the world better around me, even if it took me doing something or saying something that was offensive, might hurt feelings or whatnot. I always was looking at the larger picture as an overall whole. And she said not a lot of people have the courage to do that. The ability to constantly live to make a world better for everyone else and not really take any time for themselves. That would probably be the one. It was both heartwarming and gut wrenching at the same time, weirdly, but she really did help bring into focus a lot of things for me that day, if that makes sense. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Have you ever heard or seen the clans from the dragons that she mentioned? Conway third, but no, actually, no, I don't understand the third book at all. Like that's one of the things like I've been talking to the dragons about, and most of those, they don't use those clan names. Um, it's a really, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out because unfortunately she passed away before I got a hold of that book, and I don't know that I would have had a chance to ask her, but she did pass away before, and so I have to go to the dragons. And so far, by and large, the clans and even the sketches, like they're just as puzzled as I am. I have questions, I have theories, I have thoughts based on prior conversations, but I don't want to state them because some of them sound conspiratorial. Some of them, I mean, like one of them is I wonder if the book was changed after she submitted it and passed. I have no way. That's just like a random, like long shot freaking guess, but that's not fair to the publisher in any shape, form, or fashion. So I, I have no way to, it's just a thought. Um, but I don't know. I don't know, mate. It's a weird one. Say, Brianna, I want a black cauldron, but I don't know how to use one. Look up cast iron videos because black cauldrons are cast iron cauldrons, cast iron cook pots, cast iron Dutch ovens. That's what you're looking for. And if you're going to use it, you need to learn how to care for it. And honestly, if you want it, use it for cooking, not magic. There's no need to have a cauldron in magic at all. Um, unless it's just for aesthetics. But aesthetic wise, it's literally you put things in it and burn. It's cook pot. Even the traditional witch's cauldron was just a old cast iron cook pot. Yeah, scrying fully pulls on your arcane sight. That's it's also a great way to develop your arcane sight, but yeah. The better your arcane sight develops, the better your scrying gets. That's one of those things. So yeah, you do need your arcane sight because when you're scrying, it's like the image isn't literally in the mirror. Okay, there's a lot of people who make that misconception. The mirror is a medium for which you're scrying into. That doesn't mean like it actually shows up like a TV, but your arcane sight will impose the information it's gathering onto the medium. This means when you're looking, you're staring, you're doing your thing, you will see it on that medium. But if like another magician without their arcane sight comes over and looks at it, they're either going to see nothing or they can scry and see something completely different because it's not a shared image. If that makes sense. I hope that helps a little. Let's see. Rendani, wow, dang, that's beautiful. Go ahead. So there you go. That was Drake's emotional share. Can you talk about red dragons and spirit keeping one? And do you have a story about these beings? Red dragons are they're everywhere. I mean, they're not rare dragons at all. Spirit keeping a dragon, you can't. You won't. No, not happening. Dragons do not link, bind, or anything to objects or spirit keeping. That concept is out the window. I know there's plenty of places online that are supposedly selling dragon spirits bound to objects and spirit keeping objects, stuff like that. I got a friend bought over 200 of those so-called spirit keeping dragons from at least 20 different suppliers. None of them had a dragon attached to it. They were all thought forms. And dragons are actually considerably, they're free-spirited and violent to the point where if someone tried to bind them or link them to a spirit-keeping object, they're going to retaliate with extreme prejudice. And when I say extreme prejudice, I mean like the kind of prejudice the American military gives to its enemies. Like, it ain't good. So as far as spirit keeping and dragons go, that's just off the table. Now, as far as red dragons, you'll find most of them within the fire element for most people, because that's going to be the first element. You know, it's one of the first 4 elements. That being said, though, red dragons can appear within any element. You'll see them in the earth element as well as within the water element, because, well, scale color is not like a defined thing by element or type. They can change their colors just the same way we change clothes. I don't know if that's helping your question specifically, because so what is it you want outside the spirit keeping? Is there anything else you want to know about red dragons? Because, yeah, you're not going to be able to spirit keep them. I've seen a lot of people try and they get in very, yeah, it's not good. And before someone's like, well, it was a young dragon. No, it wasn't. They will not trust humans with young hatchlings. They won't. They do not trust us with hatchlings. If a human was to try and bind a hatchling, I hope your will is in good standing. That's the best way to state that. I actually know someone who tried to they said they tried to catch it in a butterfly net to pet it, is how they explained it to me. Let's assume that is all they did. Let's assume that for a moment. I question whether that's all they did, but let's assume it. Yeah, their entire life as they knew it went to shit. The dragons did not let up. And last I talked to them, the dragons still hadn't let up. Proper room setup. Do you have a video about how to advance your arcane sight specifically? Actually, agree. Yeah, I do. There's a video on arcane senses, but if you go over to workingdragonmystic.com, click on the online school or online courses tab, there is literally an arcane sight course, free, right there. It's the only free course at the school. It is specifically focused on arcane sight, but all the exercises can be adjusted for the other senses. But that one it's literally arcane sight. It's a full course, not just a video. So I'd go give that a look. And Jade is throwing clocks at me. Brianna, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Mugs up to you. All right, people. Jade's throwing clocks at me. That means I need to get ready to wrap up here. Make sure there's no last minute things that I absolutely must answer. If I did not get to your question, please come back next week and try and hopefully I'll see it. Do consider joining the Gilded and supporting the channel over at Locals. You can find both at workingdragonmystic.com. We have a one-stop shop for everything we're involved in now. So you don't have to have different links, people. We just workingdragonmystic.com take you over to the main website. Keep you up to date on all the shenanigans and craziness that I am up to and doing. No, you can't keep a dragon. Dragons do not belong to us. Your guardians and your co-magicians, they're free to come and go as they want. They will tend to hang around, but that is nothing like spirit keeping. Not zero zilch. And at any time, they're actually capable of smiting you. So yeah. If they decide to stay, that's on their free will. Spirit keeping is not that same thing, unfortunately. Whip down a butterfly net to pet the dragon. I mean, there's a little hatchling they were claiming, but they are violently, destructively protective of hatchlings. Rule of thumb: don't pet a hatchling. Don't go near a hatchling. Don't even just stay away from hatchlings. Thank you. I just signed up for the course. Thank you so much. No problem. No problem. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of great questions. I will see you all next week, supporters. I will see you all next Friday for the members only live, which I'm thinking is a workshop. It might be a open live stream. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm wanting to say the calendar says it's a workshop. Whatever the calendar says, that's what I'll follow. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week and keep on doing what you're doing and keep on improving, doing the best you can to be the best you can be, and pursue that self-mastery and self-empowerment. Until next time, take it easy. Good night.